Welcome to today's webinar, Caring Counts, a celebration of natural caring. My name is Paul Bourne, the co-CEO of the Tamarack Institute and the founder of Vibrant Communities. I'm here to introduce our discussion today with Vickie, Cammack, and Etmanski. What is natural caring? How does it kind of live out?
Right. Well, it is an invisible and indispensable force, really, that underpins our society, and we have trouble seeing it. But it is the freely given, what we call freely given love in action, and we're very conscious to use it as an action, as caring, versus the word, for example, care alone, which tends to be more of a commodified sense. When you talk about care, people immediately think about hospital and so on. And we're talking about this freely given love and action. There's three kind of qualities to it. So it involves a relationship. Literally, that means that it's something that we care, something or someone that we care deeply about. It's flexible and responsive. That means that it's not a prescribed response for thousands of people or thousands of situations. It's a response to this person, this situation, this family, this community, this neighborhood. And it's reciprocal. It may not be a tit for tat kind of reciprocity, like I make you tea and you make me tea. It's not that kind of reciprocity, but there is a deep exchange within every caring action, and it benefits both the giver and the receiver.
Quickly, what's the difference then between natural care and paid care? Like the juxtaposition between those two?
Well, I appreciate that question because one thing that's really important to know is that we are all in roles and situations where we can be naturally caring. Many people who are who are paid to be care providers are often in situations, though, that limit their ability to be caring because of the efficiency demands, cost effectiveness, staffing levels, those all kinds of things that would limit this kind of natural caring coming forward. But I can tell a little story that begins to kind of illustrate it. And I actually think probably everybody that's listening knows what the difference is between being, having a care interaction versus having a caring interaction. But here's just an example of my nephew, who's a paramedic. And he's telling me about his partner, who's he says he loves his partner in the ambulance because he's always willing to go the extra mile. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, for example, the other day we were transferring a patient and this patient he was going from one institution to another, and he had been indoors for 6 months. And so what they did on the transfer is they pulled up to the beach at Spanish Banks, backed the ambulance in and flung open the doors and sort of rolled the trolley out so that this man could feel the sun. To me, that's natural caring in even a paid role. So I want to just make it clear that it's possible that, for natural caring to occur both within obviously in non-paid, freely given situations, but also that care providers can also demonstrate this.
So I want to ask some broader questions, but why is this, first of all, why is this important? Like, why is it important for us to talk about natural caring?
So when we look around and we've the lives of our friends, in our extended family, and the people we've worked with over time, when we look back at our life, the most defining characteristic is that people are taking care of each other. They're raising children. They're going the extra mile for a friend who's just been diagnosed with cancer. They're becoming a volunteer driver. They're helping a colleague out. They're involved with strangers who are down in their luck. And so this natural caring is all around us, yet those who are involved in it kind of dismiss it themselves, or take it for granted, or it's just a given in order to get on with the rest of our life. But in fact, our lives could not happen, those rest of our lives could not happen without this natural caring. And it's in abundance, it's profuse, it's flourishing all over. But yet, we seldom pause, reflect on it, respect it, treat it with the kind of dignity it deserves. We've seen studies that suggest that if you were to sort of analyze all of the caring that takes place in our society, 80% of it is natural. Right. It's freely given. It's given, from the heart. It's generous. It's determined. It's relentless. It's reciprocal. And only 20% is paid. Only 20% is professionalized. To some extent, as Vickie was talking about earlier, only 20% is commodified as a package called care. And it's not about one or the other. It's about the reality that most of it, the caring in our society, is natural. So that's what we're trying to tease out.
So in that sense, a parent to a child to their elderly parents, a neighbor, who knows that another neighbor's sick and brings chicken soup, or helps them rake their lawn, or snow blow their driveway, right? All of that kind of natural caring is what makes the world go round. I often ask police officers when I lecture, how many people does it take to make a neighborhood safe? And they said, well, it depends how many people care.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I just want to build on the example regarding the police officers and so on. I mean, I think that one of the reasons that we don't feel often safe is that we don't see the natural caring that's going on in our communities. So because it's hidden from us, so it makes us feel more frightful. We're consuming a lot of media that tell us about all the dangerous things in the world, and why we need to lock our doors and use security, and on and on and on. And yet what we do know is exactly what that police officer has said, is that that's what keeps us safe, is the caring that we receive from neighbors and loved ones and so on. So making it visible is going to help us to feel safer and more confident. And I believe, we believe, kinder. It's easier to be kind when we feel safe. It's easier to feel more connected to others and to be open-hearted when we feel safe. So it's a really important part of this celebration.
Bryan Adams, Paul, this probably dates the three of us, but we probably know who he is as a singer, as a musician, as a rocker. And his latest album is a tribute to his parents. Wow. And the key song, and I think it's the name of the album as well, is "Shine a Light." And that's what we're interested in doing as, if you will, step one, or job one, is to shine a light on what's already going on. So in Bryan's case, what he's saying is that my talent was nurtured by my parents. All of the things they did allowed me to become who I was. And in a sense, it's an example of the fact that we couldn't build cars, we couldn't invent electronic vehicles that run on electric power. We couldn't become a politician. We couldn't do the work that most of us on this call do without someone or a group of people in the background taking care of us, or of our children, and of the others around us, in order for us to do our job. So it's the bedrock that allows us to do everything else that we want to do in society. But it's a bedrock that we simply take for granted because it's there. It's always been there. People go about doing it. People generally don't protest. They don't demand, attention. They don't necessarily want to be celebrated. But and it's a big but, is that we think that part of shining a light on it is to celebrate what already exists all around it, to make it more visible.
Yes.
There's almost a fear and loathing of vulnerability and of dependency. And this is one of the things that we think is important about shining a light is to understand all of the ingredients that go into a natural caring relationship. And certainly vulnerability and dependency are part of that. And so is sacrifice. This is not about some, glamorous initiative that, always has a happy ending. It's actually not even pursuing something for a larger goal. It just is. It is what we do. We take care every day, everywhere. Just about everyone is taking care. They're not utilitarian about it in the sense of this is going to give me greater glory, or it's going to lead to a better policy, or etc. It is simply what we do. We breathe, we eat, and we care. It's at that level that we're talking at its most fundamental. And so if we want to nurture it or nourish it or shine a light on it, we need to pay attention to what's being exposed from it and not rush immediately to a policy without fully understanding all the implications, without fully understanding. That's why in the words you read, that, which we chose deliberately, this is something very magnificent. It's splendid. And it's going to take a while to see it all, to reflect on it all, to experience it in its totality. And when we do, we think then it'll be relatively easy to sort out, the things that will nourish or nurture more of it.
As you know, Paul, it's a funny thing. I mean, we've had just trying to find the words has been an interesting part of the journey so far. Like how to talk about this, and it's something that we would invite the listeners to contribute to. We don't think we have the language down yet. And if there are thoughts and ideas, because, again, still even, I mean, the word natural seems to help, and using the verb natural caring, but lots of times people just immediately go to the dark side of caregiving. And so is there some other way we could be talking about this? Are there things that we could be doing that would at least illuminate this other side and its critical dimension in our well-being in our societies? So we'll open that up to anybody who's listening to feel free.
The language of caring. I'm going to move right away into some questions from people that maybe this is more of a comment, and maybe something I'd love to explore with you is the language of caring. Robert Putnam looks at the difference between bridging and bonding, right? So I would say that those are very much definitions of a way of describing caring. In my book, I look at deep community versus shallow community. And surely we need to give credit to people who give a tremendous sacrifice in their caring, where caring is a long-term relationship. Not saying it's more or less valuable, but it certainly is a different kind of caring. And then that helps us to kind of maybe look at a broader perspective, which is how then do we get more bridging caring to occur? How do we get more deep caring to occur? And I think that might take us to a policy question. What kind of policies do we start to think about that help us to address caring? I know that we're early days right now and we want to celebrate it. But I guess I want to run right away into that other sphere where we start to look at how do we help caring to occur. And I know it's natural. I know it's in a sense simple. I kind of disagree with you that it is. I think it is struggling. People are hurting. People don't understand how to reach out to others, and there's an epidemic of loneliness, which to me doesn't mean that people don't care every day, but they certainly don't feel cared for. And I think we need to ask some of the broader questions. And I actually think care, and the reason I'm so in love with this idea is I think care is the answer, and understanding care and helping people to care, and creating the institutions for care. Can you share your thoughts about caring for self? We have lots of questions, so if you want to give shorter answers, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Like they're just
Well,
flying in.
of course, it's important. Where where it becomes problematic is a lot of times when caregivers who are really giving it all on behalf of the person they love, and the advice to them is to take care of themselves. It often can be a shaming experience. It can be like, you need to do something about it, as opposed to, I think the ultimate question needs to be, what is it you're doing for your loved one that no one else can do, and how can we help you to do it? And if it turns out self-care is a part of that answer, okay, but not as the intervention to the problem.
Do you think that austerity, actual and perceived, is a help or hindrance to natural care? There's so much fear now about financial markets, resources, effects of climate change, etc. How can we develop a movement of care that demonstrates caring? Natural caring is an antidote to the mindset of austerity, of poverty.
I want to step back, and Paul, and maybe some of the people who are listening in know that I spent most of my life making policy, securing large sums of money that make life better for people. And what I've concluded is that that those never go as far as one wants by themselves, and that there is something deeper that is required to get at this question of we don't have enough money, or to get at this question of we have to be efficient in how we proceed as a society, to get at this question of we have to balance everything off. And I've concluded is that if I allow myself with my concern or my love for something to be channeled into the language of economics or finance, to be channeled into the language of policy, to be channeled into the language of rights, that I am narrowing my focus. Of course, those are important, don't get me wrong, but there is more. And so what we want to do with this exploration on natural care, which this webinar is the beginning, is to begin to sketch out the fullest picture we have of natural caring. And so as a start, I think we need a new language. We need symbols, we need music, we need metaphors, we need stories that reflect the reality of care in the language of people who are doing care. Not taking bits and pieces of that and packaging it for policymakers or for funders or whatever. Of course, we should continue to do that. And I know we will, and people like Bonnie and Donna and many others will. But what we want to get at is we want to get at a full appreciation for the experience of natural caring, for the toing and froing, for the vulnerability, the depending. So the language that we've chosen as a place mark for now is the language of beauty, is the language of artists, is the language of celebration, the celebratory language. So that's where we're coming from with that. So immediately when one asks about austerity, I have to become somehow more knowledgeable about finance, about the politics of an issue, about the trade-off between supporting natural carers versus, or let's say people with disabilities versus an anti-poverty agenda versus a whatever. And there will be people who will continue to do that. What we want to do is step back a bit, because we think there is actually something much more fundamental that would render those kinds of discussions meaningless in the future if we had a fuller appreciation for natural caring in all of its manifestations. And that's what we're getting at. We think there is a unifying factor in natural caring that transcends politics, that transcends partisan politics, that transcends economics, that transcends rights, that transcends ideology, and that transcends our differences. And that's the golden thread that we're holding on here, and that we want to spend some time paying attention to. And if necessary, we'll love policy into existence. We'll love funding into existence. I know
there's so much professional caring going on, but in our hospital, at St. Mary's Hospital, there's all these volunteers. And the first thing they do is they walk in and they say, how can I help? And you say, well, I'm going to the optometry. That was where I had to go last time. And they said, and your name? I said, Paul. And they said, well, Paul, let me take you there. And then as we were walking, they told me 2 or 3 really bad jokes. And I laughed, and I'm thinking to myself, how beautiful, that this moment just was. And how, in a sense, small, but absolutely profound. Beautiful. Sorry, Vickie, I'll let you jump in and I'll ask another question.
Sure, it's just a good story because it made me think of Pepper the robot that's in one of the other hospitals in Ontario. That's the greeter. And while Pepper the robot is kind of cute, I guarantee you Pepper does not give that kind of experience that you had. It will be fascinated by the robot and how cool if we can figure out, how to work it. And I'm sure kids will be fascinated by Pepper the robot. But what a difference to actually be called by your name, told a joke, welcomed in a situation in which you're feeling very vulnerable, undoubtedly. And yeah, it's huge. Thanks.
Vickie, I got to the window where I checking a website here today, naturalcaring.ca. So some early parts of the discussion are happening there. Very early, lots more to come. For those who don't already know this, and I didn't do it in my opening, Vickie and Al are also senior fellows at Tamarack, and in that way, they're deliberately engaging with our broader learning community as well, in terms of elevating this idea and bringing it forward. So thank you so much to both of you.